Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. I am the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Jahananon, and also I'm the cute one.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Box and Fresh Out the Podcast, retired child crimes and human trafficking detective turned tabletop titan and improv comedian. I am the funny one.
And I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, also known as the Smart One. And you're listening to Fresh Out the Podcast, specifically episode 87 of Fresh Out the Podcast. We are recording tonight. It is May 16th, 2023, and we are coming at you right after Mother's Day, right after the release of quite possibly the biggest video game of the year. Which we will get into in just a little bit. But first, I just have to ask, Mother's Day just happened over the weekend. Everybody was celebrating mothers. So I want to talk about mothers in the sense that we would talk about it here on the podcast, which is just going through maybe some of your favorite movie or TV moms. And by that, I mean, what movie or TV moms would you like it if they were your own mother? Who's the best movie or TV mom that comes to mind? Or I guess any other medium. It could be a mom from a book
from
or from
that
a
70s
video
show,
game.
Kitty, and she reminds me of your mom a little bit, more than anyone else's moms that I know. But I think Kitty from that 70s show, good TV mom. Wouldn't mind having Kitty around. She seems all right. And for the bonus, we could take Red also because he's hilarious. Maybe not a great TV dad, but if I had to take the couple, I would.
My answer... Oh, go ahead, John.
Well, I like my mom, so I'd probably keep her. But I guess if I had to switch, I'd go for... Get back to me.
I want to say, just for the sake of conversation, I'm glad that you love your mom. I wouldn't have it any other way. This is obviously just for sake of conversation. I would never want you to actually replace your mother. So I know that Jahan's mom has been a frequent listener of the podcast, so I want to make sure that she knows. I'm not asking Jahan to replace you, nor would I ever think that he would. This is, it's just a fun...
I got another one.
Little brain teaser.
Unless you want to go, Drew. You haven't gotten to go yet.
Well, I was just going to say, the one that came to mind for me from the Disney Pixar realm, Elastigirl from The Incredibles. I feel like she's a pretty good mom. She's good at wrangling kids, and she has stretchy powers, so she could, help you out in a pinch if you needed things.
When you said Pixar, I thought you were going to say Andy's mom, because Andy's mom seems pretty good.
Andy's mom is a pretty good mom. Yeah, I think so.
That wasn't even on my radar until you said the word Pixar.
Actually, she's very present as a single mother. It's impressive.
She is, and they've got a nice house and a nice car, and she takes care of the kids. She's a provider.
She's crushing.
She does, however, in Toy Story 3, accidentally throw out all of Andy's toys, like throws them into the garbage. She gets the garbage bags confused and takes them out, throws them out on the curb. It's pretty.
You
not
know,
cool.
Drew,
That
I
bitch.
believe that Drew has a similar story where a friend of his picked up the wrong trash bag and accidentally threw away an entire Nintendo Switch.
That is absolutely. It was not a Switch. That was actually a Nintendo Wii. Yes, we were in Angel Fire, New Mexico. It had been a skiing trip, so we had been told we went in a truck. So all of our luggage and things were in the back of the truck, and we'd been told to put all of our suitcases, things in trash bags, so that that in case there was snowfall or rainfall, that nothing got ruined in the back of the truck. So I had packed my Wii, which we had taken to play in the evenings and things, because I believe the Super Mario Brothers or new Super Mario Brothers, the Wii side-scrolling Mario game had come out, so we were playing that. And it was the night before we were leaving, and I packed it in a trash bag. And put it by the door, ready to go for in the morning, and I went to sleep because we had a long trip back the next day, and I was going to be driving a lot of it. And other people stayed up and then took out the trash that evening and took my Wii with it. And literally, when we realized where it was the next morning, we walked outside to try to retrieve it from the dumpster as the garbage truck was driving away from having emptied said dumpster. The friend did replace my Wii, so he did get me a new one, which was very kind. But
Very nice.
That was a good ending for the story.
I think I would have to go with the mother from Jingle All the Way, because she actually made her husband keep a promise to their son. Dad.
So she kind of inadvertently made sure that her son had the best Christmas ever. Her son, Anakin Skywalker, have the best Christmas ever when Arnold did, in fact, become Turbo Man in that final parade.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I was thinking the Golden Girls.
All of them?
Yeah.
As a collection?
Yeah.
TV
Mom.
Ooh, that gives me the best idea. My mom's would be the Crystal Gems from Steven Universe.
Oh, Steven Universe.
Those would be my mom's. Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. I feel like that would be the best.
This is from recent memory, because I talked about this movie like last week or the week before. It's in theaters now. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I talked about this. Rachel McAdams in that movie is just the absolute best mom. She'd be a great mom. And it's kind of crazy how she has gone from mean girl to like the Notebook love interest to now being just great on-screen mom. So there, I'll say that.
Your wife's a mom, huh?
If it's a mom and I haven't even listened to her.
You motherfucker.
Speaking of motherfuckers, Back to the Future, the mom.
No!
When she's coming on to his son, to her son when he's there in the past.
That's a good mom.
I feel like naming her is a red flag, dog.
That's a good pick. Honorable mention, there's some things that are before our time, like Carol Brady, the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, that's not something for us. I see a funny one on the list, Morticia Adams.
Oh, no.
My
So
mom,
it's a pretty good TV mom.
my mom actually said that she had always wished that the Bradys were her parents growing up. So,
I bet there's people at home right now screaming Malcolm in the Middle at us, but
oh no, I would absolutely. I actually the other day said I kind of wish Hal was my dad, but not his wife. She's
not the
crazy.
mom. Yes, the dad maybe, not the mom.
She's not bad or anything. She's just like a nut, and I don't.
Well, yeah,
that's
she
a lot
also
of stress.
keeps that family in shape. That
She
family is
does.
a whole bunch of fuck offs.
She's a good mom. It's just she's very stressed.
Any
Wilma
moms
Flintstone.
any TV moms you're like adamant you would not want in your life at all?
Roseanne, without a question, no doubt, Roseanne. I don't
She's
want Roseanne. Yeah, no, thank you.
It's okay. They didn't want Roseanne either.
Yeah, nobody wanted Roseanne. I had that one in the barrel ready to go. Who's the worst TV mom? Fucking Roseanne, bro.
That's pretty funny. Worst TV mom. Yeah, probably the mom from Back to the Future. She tried to fuck her. Ooh, Norman Bates' mom. Wait.
Oh, good answer. Yikes.
Wait, that's a real person. Right?
Well, not only is it a real person, there have been fictional versions,
I'm talking about
like in Bates Motel.
I mean
So
the
you
mom
can-
from Psycho.
Yeah,
That's
Bates
the one.
Motel.
Is
She's
that
in-
the same?
well,
Is that based on him?
They remade that show. Yeah, it was based on that.
Oh, okay. I never seen Psycho.
Oh,
I'm gonna go with here's a what's a stretch answer. Mrs. Trunchbull from Matilda.
Ooh,
Which I believe, she's like the headmistress of the school, but I believe the twist is that you do find out she was the mother figure to Miss Honey, who's the likable teacher in that. And Miss Trunchbull picks up girls by their pigtails and swings them in circles and throws them and stuff like that. And sends kids to the Chokey. If you remember the Chokey, if you're familiar with your Matilda lore. Yeah, Miss Trunchbull, no bueno.
my wife said that Reba McEntire from the Reba TV show was the worst TV mom, and I was like, "Nuh-uh, that's just my mom. She's exactly like my mom in that show. There's nothing wrong with that. She's fine."
I don't think I would want Stifler's mom to be my mom.
Ooh, you don't want the MILF Stifler's mom?
Yeah, and then she's.
I got bad news for you, Drew. No, I'm just
Getting with my friends. Oh no! Oh no! Oh.
I honestly have no idea. I've never seen your mom, so I don't know. I assume she's a looker, though.
Any,
Cersei
Any
Lannister's
other-
not a great mom.
Oh, that's a good one.
thinking about some Game of Thrones characters.
There's a lot of bad moms in Game of Thrones.
Lots of bad moms in Game of Thrones, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, any other moms off the top of your head before we move on to the Zelda discussion that people actually probably want to hear?
Yeah,
Although
no,
I
I'm
kind
good.
of had fun with this.
It was fun. It was a fun mom conversation.
Yeah, I think I milked these moms for all they're worth.
Boom!
Oh no! Oh, this is a conversation I said, "Oh no," way too many times. I should have known that was coming. Yeah, we could use that as a perfect transition point into talking about
Breast milk.
The Legend of Zelda. Actually, a couple weeks ago we spoke Redfall and had a pretty big video game focused episode when we kind of talked about the state of Xbox and Redfall, and now moving on to the Nintendo front because a new Legend of Zelda game has come out, and
What?
it's
Zeldar!
super relevant anytime a new Zelda game comes out, of course. I don't believe there's been a new main entry in the Zelda franchise since 2017 when the Switch launched and
Been
Breath of the Wild
6
came out.
years, Yeah.
Yeah, so
They had
before
Link's
we get-
Awakening, but yeah, nothing. No new release.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's some remakes
It's a
and
remake.
things. They've also done, I think, some of those Hyrule Warriors or
Yeah,
the,
they did Hyrule Warriors. Yeah, they've
Yeah,
done
like the
the
Dynasty
Cadence
Warriors,
of Hyrule,
yes.
but no actual entries. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can go back and talk a little bit about our history with the Zelda games first, because I do think that as one of the most legendary, for lack of a better word, game franchises out there, and I feel like it's a franchise that everybody that has been a true or serious gamer at any point has probably had interaction with the Zelda game of some sort. For me personally, I kind of attribute Zelda to being the game that unlocked my brain as far as how video games can be played. The first one that I played, let's see, the Nintendo 64 came out, 97-ish? Does that sound right?
That sounds right. We're all
Looking
checking
it up.
real
I'm looking
quick.
it up so I can be factual here. The N64 launched in the US in... Come on, Wikipedia, don't fail me.
Which one?
June 23rd, 1996.
Yeah, that was in Japan. North America, September 26th, 1996. So I must have gotten one around that time, like December 1996 is when I got a Nintendo 64. So the first Zelda game I owned was Ocarina of Time when it came out for the Nintendo 64.
Wow.
And my first experience playing it was I remember struggling with it. Like I was pretty young, and just the whole adventuring aspect of games, like I could play Mario games, that was pretty intuitive to me. Zelda was a little bit harder, like through puzzles I had to figure things out, and you don't realize as a kid that young, like, oh, I can actually move this stick over the fire and it lights on fire, and then light this torch, like some things like that that are taken for granted now that are so similar. Like I just didn't understand that you could do that with games back then. And I actually remember, Gary, you probably don't remember this because it's probably not as etched into your brain as it is for me, but you and another friend of mine, a friend of ours, came over to my house one time, and like we were playing it together, and our mutual friend at the time, Ben, we called him Bean.
Bean! Bean
he helped
sometimes
me.
listens to the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I was talking to Bean a couple months ago. He's living up in Denver, and he said he listens occasionally, yeah.
That's amazing. Well,
Shout out to Bean.
Well, if he's listening to this, I just remember the three of us, like, had a sleepover in my house, and we were playing it, and I got the furthest that I had gotten in the game with y'all. And then I also remember watching your older brother Thomas play it, and he had already beaten the game, and seeing the end game and just watching how he played. It's like I said, it just unlocked my brain. And then I was able to beat that game, and it was a huge accomplishment for me as an elementary school gamer. And then, of course, I went back and played some of the older Game Boy ones and started to explore the older ones, and played every entry that came out after that, every main entry at least after that, until now, until my adult life. So that's mine. How about you?
Mine is really similar to yours. I had Zelda Ocarina of Time on the N64. Like you said, Thomas, my brother, 6 years older than me, so it was easier for him to do a lot of the puzzles and the gaming stuff, but I got to sit there and learn and watch, and we both played as well. But the thing for me is that unlocked my mind in that it was sort of the first open world, I say with bunny quotes, open world game I'd ever played. It had zones, and so it wasn't totally open world, but once you got out into Hyrule Field, it felt like a sandbox game where you could run from destination to destination, and you had this horse that could jump over fences, and you could really quickly travel. I remember going to the town where you can hook shot all over the town, back and forth around like a crazy person, and then fly with the chicken down to the bottom. That was the kind of stuff that really hit me, is this fun 3D open world environment where other games besides Mario 64 really didn't have that kind of action platforming moving around situation. And I would say that without Ocarina of Time, I would never have fallen in love with Morrowind, which is my favorite video game of all time. But I think that as a kid gamer, I needed to take that step in between, when you're going from a Mario game or you're going from Sonic. How do you go to Morrowind? You can't just make that jump. It's overwhelming. But Ocarina of Time was there when I needed it. It taught me puzzles. It taught me open world and leveling up, and it had a great story. Yeah, man, nothing but huge thumbs up for Ocarina. That was my lead into the series, and it'll always have a soft place in my heart for that reason.
How about you, Jahan?
So, before I say this, I would like to remind everyone that we're all the same age. Just, I don't want people to
Yes,
think.
yeah, that's true.
I just saw that the original Legend of Zelda came out before any of us were born, so that's exciting. But my journey does not start the same as yours. Mine starts, the year is 1991. So I mean, we had an NES back in the day. I don't think we ever owned The Legend of Zelda. But once we got that Super Nintendo, boy, I got A Link to the Past on the Super NES. I played it all the time with my older brother. We would take turns. He'd play his game, I'd watch him, blah, blah, blah. And, he would do stuff that I was like, whoa, that's crazy that you could do that. But, I mean, that was more or less a completely open world, too. You could run around. go to where you wanted when you wanted. You were just kind of item locked. Like, can't access this area without the hookshot. But yeah, man, Link to the Past, still one of my favorite games. As an adult, I went back and played it on the Switch, like, digital console. And got all the way to the end again. And I love that game, man. Link to the Past for the Super NES was one of the best games ever of that time.
Kind of feel like with the dawn of the internet, right? Like when the internet started really becoming a thing, circa, well, I mean, it was around in the 90s, late 90s, but I feel like when I was becoming a more avid user of the internet, like 2000, 2001, like I'm on the fax message boards and, you know, things like that. And I just remember it's like a ages old debate. That was always the big video game debate, was the best Zelda game of all time. And you had your hardcore Ocarina of Time defenders and you had your hardcore A Link to the Past defenders as well. And, you know, I think that there's still a bit of that to this day, although there's a lot of Breath of the Wild folks too that claim it's the best one. And I was the one over here like, Majora's Mask, Majora's Mask.
So
I still love Majora's Mask.
So, yeah, my story continues. I got Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Played the shit out of that. Loved that game. I was really happy when I got to play the remake on the Switch. I love what they did with it. It was very fun.
Me too.
But
Great game.
Ocarina of Time is one of those games I saw my friend Kayvon play. You know Kayvon. I watched him play a lot. I never actually really played it very much. I never owned it, never. But Majora's Mask is probably... It's really hard to say, especially with the release of the new game. But Majora's Mask is probably my all-time favorite Zelda game. It's so fun. Like, I love a good Groundhog's Day, and this is Groundhog's Day of the game in the best possible way. It's so fun.
I actually love the aesthetic of Majora's Mask. It's really similar to Ocarina, except it's just creepier. They just made everything creepier. The weapons look a little more sinister. The transformations and the masks are a little creepier. The moon is certainly terrifying. The bad guys are sort of unsettling. I really liked Majora's Mask, but I liked watching it be played. And if there were ever to be a Zeldar movie, I think that they should make a Majora's Mask movie.
It kind of came out at that perfect time, too, where, like, we're just old enough to start thinking dark stuff is cool. It's like, that's where you get that wave of The Nightmare Before Christmas kind of becoming cool again, and like Hot Topics in the mall, and that's always kind of fun to go look at. And then you got Majora's Mask. It's kind of this darker take on things, you know, using a lot of the elements from Ocarina of Time, but making this darker game. I vibed with that game hardcore. I loved Majora's Mask.
I loved Majora's Mask. It was probably my favorite of the whole series. I didn't have a GameCube, so I never played Wind Waker.
The internet exploded when that one was revealed. I can still remember people just, you know, going absolutely nuts at the Toon Link aesthetic, and then
I remember seeing it on XPlay.
Shout out to
Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb.
And then
I can actually see my purple GameCube from here, and though I was not a fan of Wind Waker, I did play on the Game Boy Advance, because you could do the Game Boy Advance Game Link and like plug it in as a controller. And the main person played as Link, and the other person played as Tingle, the little elf guy with the balloons on his back. And you could slam the A button and just drop bombs, and it cost a ton of rupees. So whoever was playing Link was just getting all of their money stolen the whole time by bomb spams. It was bad, but fun.
Fair.
And then I feel like you don't get as many people talking about Twilight Princess, which is the big entry that came after Wind Waker. For me, that was a launch game with the Wii, so I got my Wii and got Twilight Princess, so I invested a lot of time in it, and I actually really liked that game at the time, but it's kind of hard to separate. It's like, it was the first game I was playing on this new console, and it was a new Zelda game, so it just had a lot of things going for it in that sense.
As someone who got it later, I liked it a lot. It wasn't brand new for me. It was like it had been out for a long time. I finally got to play it. I was like, wow, this is really good.
I'm surprised to hear that from both of you. As a guy who doesn't listen to a lot of Zelda talk around the water jug, as it may be, I just didn't think people liked Twilight Princess.
I don't think they did.
I didn't think people were about it.
I don't think they did, but I
it's
liked
like
it.
Even a bad Zelda game is typically a great game, but I just think if you were to say your favorite Zelda game was Twilight Princess, people would look at you weird. Like that's a pretty contrarian.
It's not my favorite one, but it was really fun. It was cool to play with the motion controls, but you didn't have to. I liked some of the puzzles and some of the boss battles were really, really fun. I really enjoyed. There's the level where you ride on that gear, you jam it into the wall, and you're like riding this gear, and you can like hop around. That's like really fun. I don't know. I had a good time with that game.
The reviews of it are really favorable on Wikipedia. They're just showing A pluses and 10 out of 10s pretty much across the board from everybody at the time. So maybe it was just a sleeper. Maybe I just, just because I didn't hear about it doesn't mean it's not great.
It's kind of crazy. So this is funny because we've been doing this podcast long enough. So the next big entry was Skyward Sword, which was also for the Wii, and it used the Wii Motion Plus extension on it. Like that was a huge thing, and it was totally reliant on motion controls. Like you couldn't play the game without motion controls, and I remember that being kind of controversial at the time, even though it was well reviewed and people really liked it. But they did re-release Skyward Sword HD for the Switch in 2021, and it's funny because we've been doing the show long enough. I just went back to the Google Doc that we had for the recording that we did on July 24th, 2021, and I talked about it. I talked about Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword on that episode because I was playing the re-release HD. So we've now been doing the show long enough that we can pull out references like that. But
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I played Skyward Sword then. I think that was the first time I actually beat it all the way through, was in that playthrough on the Switch, and really enjoyed it. It's Skyward Sword, but...
I never did play Skyward Sword, but I do know that it's technically the first game in the timeline.
Right.
That blows my mind that that game even came out. I don't remember that happening. I don't remember Skyward Sword existing.
I don't remember it coming out either, for being honest.
Its whole thing, kind of like, every Zelda game has its gimmick. Like Wind Waker had the boat and the water world, and Twilight Princess you turned into a wolf, and that was the whole thing. And then Skyward Sword you had a bird. You could fly around on the bird. And then Breath of the Wild was giant open world, temples, crafting, just everything thrown at it. Should we get into the whole Breath of the Wild and then the newest entry, Tears of the Kingdom? Is it time?
Yeah, I guess it's time for that. I mean, because we didn't really play a lot of the other ones. Even though there are some solid entries on remaining. But yeah.
Just so
There's
I'm not
a ton
wasting...
of Game Boy entries too. Yeah. Sorry, Gary.
It's okay. I was going to say, just so I'm not wasting your guys' time, I didn't play Breath of the Wild, so I'm just going to be here for this conversation.
Well, I am going to throw it to Han because... as we've been talking super positively on Zelda in general, and for me, it was always one of my favorite game franchises of all time. Breath of the Wild, for me, was the first one that I found myself not really digging it the way that I normally would with a Zelda game, and considering it's super beloved and the high praise it got all around, and as the new one's getting, I want Jahan to talk about it first and his experience with those, because I know he's I assume he's pretty positive on these things. So Jahan, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild, that was the whole reason I got the Switch. I wanted to play it so bad. When I did get to play it, I loved it. It's very different from any Zelda game that's ever been. Completely different. It's completely open world. Weapons have durability. You're not just upgrading the one sword to the Master Sword. You have to pick up weapons. They break. All that stuff. It's all very new. You have to cook food and eat it, not because you're starving or anything, but because it's the only way to heal yourself. And it's one of the best ways to get power-ups like heat and cold resistance, which you need for certain survival situations. But it has a lot of those elements. Those are all new elements to this game, and it put a lot of people off that were main series fans, I'm sure. I loved all of it. I thought it was really good. The only thing that I ever really had a problem with were some of the shrines. The shrines, I didn't always like the puzzles. They weren't the best Zelda puzzles that I'd ever had. You know, because Zelda's known for its puzzles. They're water temples and they're all this and that. They have the best puzzles. The divine beasts, however, from Breath of the Wild, which there are 4 divine beasts who you have to tame, essentially, but they themselves are dungeons. And they are some of the best Zelda dungeons. So they really do make up for it there. I loved Breath of the Wild. I'm probably not as high on it as a lot of people because I literally just saw it on like, was it GQ or something? GQ's top 100 games of all time. It was number 1. And, you know, I'm not going to say it's the best game ever made. It is very good. I could probably put it in my personal top 20, you know, maybe top 10. It is good. I do like it. But a lot of people are like, this is the best game ever made, blah, blah, blah. I had some issues with it. But Tears of the Kingdom came out. I finally got it. I played it day 1. Me and Jen both played it. We played it all weekend. We just sat together and played. Yeah, I don't know. If you're ever making a sequel, play these games. It tells you exactly what you need to do when you're making a sequel. Because there aren't a lot of... There are no direct sequels in the Zelda series, really. No, like, this happens and now this happens. It's all separate timelines, pretty much. This is a direct sequel. It picks up almost immediately after Breath of the Wild ends. Maybe like a few years in the future, but it's still the exact same story. Continuation, which they haven't really done much of. All they did was made the game 10 times better. That's all they did. They only added to this game. Well, I mean, they take away some
It uses the same map, right? Like, I know that there's more. Like, I know there's the sky stuff. I know there's the underground stuff. I know there's all of that. But, like, the Hyrule map itself is the same.
Technically,
right?
it is the same map, but as someone that played Breath of the Wild, it's completely unrecognizable. Like, I visited the home of the Zora just the other day. It did not look the same. Although the city was the same and the waterfall behind them and those cliffs were the same, there's been an upheaval that has caused a mass change to the environment. And as you mentioned, there is the entire floating world above that world and a world below. So there is so much content.
And I'm guessing they did it better in this game than they did in Saints Row 4. Because Saints Row 4 reused the same map and added a bunch of floating spaceships and stuff above the city.
Much better.
And it was horrible the way they reused the map, even though they added to it.
The way they did it in this game, man, it's beautiful.
Bringing up Saints Row 4 during a Zelda conversation is the most Gary move of all time.
Pretty funny.
John loves Saints Row too, so if you weren't here, we would still do it.
Yeah, I do like Saints Row. Except for the most recent one. But yeah. I mean, you know, they replaced... Everything they did was so cohesive. Like, everything goes together perfectly. It's a unified vision. They did what they wanted. They knew what they were doing. And the way they built the world, it all works so well together. Because they replaced the towers that you used to have to scan to, like, get the map area. They replaced it with something that launches you into the sky so you can scan the map area. And when you're doing that, you can use it to travel, but you can also get to these islands that are just all over the place, man. And there's this whole puzzle of getting from island to island, hidden temples, hidden puzzles. It's a lot of fun. Breath of the Wild, it was such a big map, and sometimes there just didn't feel like there was that much going on in some spots. You know, like, it had a little bit of that emptiness that is common in open world games. This game doesn't. This game's nonstop stuff to do everywhere you look. They've added new situations, like you can join raids on goblin camps with like Hyrulean citizens. You'd be like, oh yeah, I'll help. You can do... There's new Korok puzzles where you have to attach Koroks that have really heavy backpacks to things so you can move them across the map, which is new. Just all
I
kinds of
have
stuff like
seen
that.
a lot of the memes or videos of people essentially crucifying
The
Koroks.
Koroks. Yeah, it's really funny.
Kind of thing. I want to step in here and just say, kind of give some takes, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
With Breath of the Wild, so let me be clear. I didn't play Breath of the Wild for like an hour and decide like, yeah, I don't like this. So I put in more time than that. It took me a few goes at it, but I think I've probably put like 30 to 40 hours into Breath of the Wild.
It's respectable.
To be clear. Which, I mean, obviously nobody's going to put in that many hours into a game that is bad, or that they're like, yeah, this is terrible. However, my memories of playing it are not like overwhelmingly great. And here's the thing. I'm a very OCD gamer. I'm a completionist, and I like to check all the check boxes. And Breath of the Wild is a very difficult game to do that with because it's so big, all the shrines and so on. So I'm like moving across the map very methodically, trying to get all the shrines. And the thing is, I agree with you. The divine beasts in it are awesome. Like, those are the highlights. They're so fun. But I like my Zelda dungeons. And in that game, there's essentially 4 big dungeons, not including Ganon's Castle. But the shrines just did not do it for me. Like the small puzzles all throughout, and there's things that I complain about in the game that I feel like are positives in other games, or that would be a plus in other games. Like, for example, old Zelda games, it's like every puzzle had a way that you solved it.
Yeah.
You know, you solve this puzzle, move to the next room. Solve this puzzle, move to the next room. But essentially, there's one way to solve those puzzles. Because of the way that Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom use physics and your different things, there's a ton of ways that you can get through scenarios, and, you know, depending on how creative you are, which I think is great. But it also almost just overwhelms my senses. And when I look at all the videos and TikToks and memes, or, you know, whatever it is of people and the creations that they're making in Tears of the Kingdom, it almost comes across as less accessible to me because I feel like I need, you know, a degree in mechanics or like engineering of some sort to even be able to excel in these games. And it's almost so big that I'm like, I don't even know if I have the capacity to do this as a dad with a toddler who doesn't get as much time to play games. So it's just, I think there is a lot to like about Breath of the Wild, but it just made me long for the old Zelda games and want those, which, lucky for me, those haven't gone anywhere, right? Like, I can still go play the old games and be happy, but I just wish I could have a new version of an Ocarina of Time or those games that I love, but I feel like that's so backward facing, and instead of just embracing what they have done. That being said, I have not played Tears of the Kingdom yet. I was out of town this past weekend when it came out, so all my friends were playing it, just like you know, including you, Jahan. And I'm now just feel like behind the curve, and I feel like I'm not in any rush. I'm sure I will play it, but I don't know. And it gets these 10s out of 10s universally, but like, what about the people that weren't really a big fan of Breath of the Wild? Will they love this one? Is this the one that will turn me on it or turn me onto it?
So a lot of times when, you know, if you didn't like this isn't going to change your mind. Oh, that happens a lot. But in this case, it depends on what you didn't like about Breath of the Wild. I think Tears of the Kingdom could turn you around because they do fix a lot of stuff.
It sounds like to me, just as an observer, that Drew didn't love the shrines.
Yeah.
So have they changed and updated the shrines in any way?
The shrines are completely different. And like I said before, I also wasn't crazy about the shrines in Breath of the Wild. They were kind of two-dimensional to me. They're just kind of boring. I can't speak to the engineering thing because technically I do work at an engineering firm, but I myself am not an engineer. But
the other thing I didn't touch on, Gary, to your point, that I also didn't like is, like, you know, I am not like a Minecraft player, right? Yeah. Obviously a huge game people love. I'm not a Minecraft guy. I'm also not like a survival game guy. Like, you know, crafting, you know, breaking down resources to craft things and do that. And Breath of the Wild has a lot of that, right? A lot of crafting, and your weapons break down and then break, and then you got to find new weapons and that's the kind of stuff that I find to be taxing more so than fun.
In Minecraft, I didn't like it in Conan Legends, I didn't like it in Ark, I don't like it in Grounded, I didn't like it in Valhalla. I've played that game and I don't like that either. I'm with you.
Now, granted, I'm sure Zelda does a lot of those things better than some of the ones that you mentioned, so I don't want to dog it, but it's just like I said, the overall mechanic I find to be taxing, but then I get scared. Am I being close-minded by saying that, or am I just doing it wrong?
No, you're not being closed-minded, I don't think. I think that both of you are completely valid in not liking weapon durability. It's a common complaint. So a lot of the problems in the past Zelda games they've fixed by adding completely new mechanics. Like, you don't have bombs anymore. You don't have cryogenesis anymore to freeze water. They completely changed all your abilities. Minor spoiler, you get a new magic arm. And it has a whole slew of extra abilities, and a lot of them are really quality of life improvements. One of them is the ability Ascend. Ascend is probably my favorite thing ever. You click it, it shows a thing above you, like a little light, and when it's green, you can ascend through the floor infinitely, all the way out of dungeons and stuff. You can go through the floor. It gets rid of a lot of travel issues. You don't get stuck. It's really nice to have. The other thing, as far as durability goes, they have added a new system where one of the abilities is called Fuse, and you can fuse any item that you see with any item that you're holding. So you can put an exploding barrel on a shield, and
that's pretty cool.
And when someone hits you, it explodes. You can fuse a sword with any rock that you see, and it turns it into a club. It improves the durability of the item overall, and also you turned a chopping weapon into a smashing weapon. So like when you're trying to get into those pesky boxes, now you have a club anywhere you go, anytime you need it. But it goes so much more than that. Like, they got rid of all the special ammunition for the bow and arrow. There's no more electric arrows. There's no more exploding arrows. Now you just have ingredients in your inventory, and when you draw, you can just press up on the D-pad and choose an attachment for your arrow that you're currently holding. And so you get to be like fire arrow, lightning arrow. You get to make them. They have homing arrows, and sometimes you can just add like a horn to an arrow to make it do more damage. Like, you can do anything now. And that's one of the biggest changes, is the fuse. The other biggest change, I forget what it's called, but it's the power to fuse like the environment together. And that's all the building stuff that you guys are seeing on TikTok and stuff. You can build vehicles. The ones you're seeing on TikTok are ridiculous. You don't have to do that to play the game. It's just funny that you can. But a lot of it's just sort of like, I don't want to have to find a raft with a sail on it anymore to be able to get across this lake. Now you can build one very quickly, very easily. And I believe once you get to a certain part of the game, you can save a build so that you don't have to keep building it over and over again. You can just summon it. And people are building things from jet planes to full-on mechs, and it's pretty cool. But you don't have to get that in-depth with it in order to play the game. In fact, you can probably avoid building vehicles altogether if you really want to. It's not something you have to do. It is simply... It's a quality of life improvement. It's something you can choose to do. But I will say, as someone who rigged 3 rockets to a hot air balloon last night and rode it up into the sky, it's fun. It's a fun thing. I feel like it only adds to the game.
It does just sound fun. It just sounds
fun.
like a fun thing to do.
It's very fun. And like it's funny. Like, you can circumvent puzzles because you can technically build a bridge as far as you want, as long as you want, technically. If you want to spend all your time making bridges and doing nonsense like that, you can. But really, for me, when it comes to open world games, you really have to get what you want out of it. And for me, I have so much fun playing this game. I played it for like 20 hours probably already. And it's just been a blast. I want to play it right now. I hate talking to you guys. Let me play Zelda. But it's very fun. I would give this a 10 out of 10, personally.
Here's the thing, Jahan.
That's me. I'm Jahan.
So, I've spent 6 years now.
Yeah.
being on the hill of Breath of the Wild isn't that good, and having that contrarian viewpoint
That's
and
fine.
owning it. If I play Tears of the Kingdom and really like it, I'm gonna have to eat my words that I've been spouting out for 6
you
years.
don't. No, you don't.
No,
You can
eat
still
it.
say Breath of the Wild wasn't that good.
Yeah, because
You
it
could
is
still
different
have that
enough.
opinion.
It is different enough.
It sounds like Tears of the Kingdom is the type of game that would make Breath of the Wild unplayable. Like now, if you've played in the sandbox that is Tears of the Kingdom and try to go back, you're gonna be like, oh, what is this like game that was made in the before times?
I mean, so kind of like I have no desire to go back and play Breath of the Wild ever again after playing this.
prehistoric now by comparison.
It's so fun, man. Like there are pieces you have a time rewind power where you can like rewind an object's time, and these rocks will fall out of the sky. You can get on them and make it go back up, and you can get back into the sky, and like there's like little puzzles around that, and there's just all kinds of like you can't take a step without something interesting being going on without there being too much going on. You know what I mean? Right now they have a good balance. I have nothing but good things to say about this game. I really like it. I think you guys will like the Xeonian devices, which are the devices that you make machines out of. You can attach them to you can attach, one of them's a flamethrower head. You can attach it to your shield, and then flamethrower shield people. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. I saw people skateboarding with minecart shields.
I saw that flamethrower image, and I dragged one into our Google Drive document. You guys should check it out. It's a vehicle somebody made with a flamethrower.
Oh, I know exactly which one it's going to be. Yep, that's the one. Yep.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
For everybody at home, it's he's got the flamethrower where
It's
his
penis.
his
Penis.
member should be. It's like a big stick figure guy spraying fire out of his cockles.
Yeah, someone showed a clip from that show with the guy from Always Sunny. What's that guy's name? Mac. Mac from Always Sunny has a show where he's a video game developer, and they were talking about TTP, which is time to penis, and that is the time it will take players to make genitals with something that you're giving them. And this game
Very
has
fast.
a TTP of 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, this game came out on Friday, and I think by Saturday, timelines were
Yes,
ripe with images.
Love
Things
it.
people had created.
and it's
Time
hilarious.
to penis. That's whenever Deep Rock Galactic released their laser gun. That's the first thing everybody did was drop penises on the wall
TTP.
because you could.
Heck,
Just
even
like
back
Spore,
in the
man.
days of Halo, Combat Evolved for the OG Xbox, you know, taking our pistol and shooting in walls, we would make phallic
Minecraft,
imagery
without a
because we're
doubt,
mature.
I could put dirt where I want to. I'm making a big dirt penis. I've got a shovel. I'm gonna dig a penis in the dirt. Like it's gonna happen. If you let us make a penis, we will.
Yep. Not because we want to, but because we can.
It's because we have to.
It's because we have to, yeah. But yeah, so there is a lot of that going on. There's a lot of ridiculous creations, but I mean, really, you can build whatever you want. A lot of the creations that I've been making, like I actually did make a car the other day because it was just convenient. Also, I made like a riverboat with a fan on the back. That was pretty fun. You can do stuff like that. You can make gliders and things. They have ready-made devices. So you don't just have to do whatever. But they have cool things like beam emitters that shoot lasers and all this other stuff. You can use as much of it or as little of it as you want. The fact of the matter is it's just good fun. And the part that I was always worried about with this was like, oh, so you can only make it when they have the parts laying around. You know what I mean? And that's not true. You can get capsuled devices that are in your inventory. And you can pull them out whenever. You can't put them back in the capsules. But you can just be like, I want to make this here. And so they give you all the freedom. They give you all the tools. The game is much bigger than it was before. I am a little daunted because like you have the full size of the Breath of the Wild map plus almost double. So like, you know, it's just crazy. I haven't gotten that far in the story, so I don't even know where all this is going. It starts off really cool though. And so far, yeah, I would give Tears of the Kingdom 10 out of 10, certified fresh. It's one of my favorite games that I've ever played at this point. I'm having so much fun with it. And
I will for sure play it.
Yeah.
I feel like we've done you a disservice by being on the show and that we haven't played it and we're not able to revel in it the same way that you are. But I do promise to play it and report back, and I also promise to go into it with the right mindset, because I think, going back to Gary talking about Morrowind and Elder Scrolls games, like there actually is a pretty good comparison you can make between Breath of the Wild and like a game like Morrowind or
dare I
Skyrim.
say it's the Nintendo version of Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, and
It is.
I love the Elder Scrolls games, but when I go into an Elder Scrolls game, I'm expecting an Elder Scrolls game. So there's like an expectation. And I think the problem is that I went into Breath of the Wild
Expecting a Zelda game.
And it is a very big detour from what the franchise had been previously. And it was just hard to stomach it. Well, now that's what Zelda has been for the past 6 years. So,
And I agree.
this one,
I also had a tough time getting into Breath of the Wild. Once I did, I really enjoyed it. I played all the DLC, loved it. But yeah, man, this game, I went into this game worried that my high expectations were going to ruin it for me. And no, it was better than I could have hoped. And after being so disappointed and so let down by studios and Redfall and like all this bullshit, man, it was really nice to finally play a game that actually exceeds what they promised, and I look forward to playing more of it.
It's also interesting because obviously TikTok wasn't a thing when Breath of the Wild came out, and now it's very prominent. And so it's funny a game like this coming out in the TikTok era, because I can't scroll through my TikTok feed without seeing
All
some
kinds.
sort of Breath of the Wild shenanigans every third or fourth video as I scroll through.
Same. Yeah,
So,
but I absolutely certify this fresh. Also, yeah, if you are worried about the price, because I know it's $70, they do have their limited time get any 2 games vouchers for $100. So you go into the Nintendo eShop, you can buy. You have to buy 2 vouchers for $100. You get to keep the 2 vouchers as long as you want to, but you can use one to get Tears of the Kingdom. So this $70 game immediately becomes $50.
That is a really good deal.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you told me that, because I will absolutely jump on that, because I have also been wanting to get Metroid Dread for a long time.
Oh,
So
boy.
this is a good opportunity for me to grab Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Dread at the same time.
And if you really want to double down on that, what we did was because you can get Nintendo Switch gift cards. You can get a $50 gift card for $45 at Costco. So you get 2 of those, and then you're only paying $45 a game instead. So
Do you know how long that? I know we're getting into not good podcast territory. Do you know how long the deal is going on for on the eShop?
no, I don't know. They've had it before, and it went away, and I was really upset that I didn't take advantage of it. So you don't have to use the vouchers immediately. So I would suggest everyone, if you are planning on buying 2 more games ever on the Nintendo Switch, go ahead and do it. You'll save yourself about $40. So
That's awesome. Yep. Thank you for the life hack, Nintendo Switch life hack. I appreciate it. Well, cool. That is our discussion on not just Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but the entire Legend of Zelda franchise.
Man, we could really talk more about Zelda in the future. We didn't get into Ganondorf or his lore or how important he is.
You mean
or Zelda
Ganondorf?
or how she fits in.
And I mean, and there's we touched on like Zelda timeline. There's so many Zelda lore things, Zelda Ganondorf
Yeah.
timelines, whatever. I mean, it could take up.
we can talk about it
so
forever.
much
I know a
time.
little bit about it. I know that it's a cycle. Supposedly Skyward Sword starts it. Supposedly Tears of the Kingdom is going to end it, but we don't know. It is worth mentioning that the deal I mentioned is only for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers. Just FYI. And also, you know who voices Ganon in Tears of the Kingdom?
Is it me?
I do.
It's-
I do actually.
it's
It
Matt
sells
Mercer.
Matt Mercer.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Good for him.
Good for him.
old Matt Mercer.
He seems like a good guy, so I'm happy that he's living the dream.
Yeah, he hasn't not gotten in trouble for being a toucher, and so that I appreciate.
And things that he has said have led me to believe that he won't get into that kind of trouble.
Yeah, I don't think that he's a toucher. I don't
No.
think he's grabbing people all grabby like.
No, I think he's a good dude, and that makes me happy that he is getting.
Speaking of good dudes, Drew, you're a good dude. Why don't you talk about some of the stuff you've been watching this week?
Yeah, we'll get into our fresh picks of the week. I know, Jahan, looking at your list, I'm sure that since Tears of the Kingdom came out, that has been what is consuming most of your free time. So I see you don't really have anything else. And that's fine because I actually just celebrated my wedding anniversary over the weekend. So I was out of town, so I have not been watching that much. I did, however, start while we were on our little trip. And when we were, retiring to our Airbnb for the evening, it did have Netflix, and so we did start up Beef on Netflix, which I know Gary had been watching. Did you finish Beef, Gary?
I think I'm on episode 8, so I did not finish it, but I'm real close to the end.
I got through episode 4, so I'm almost halfway through it.
Yeah, that's a good binge. You should be feeling the show by then.
Yes, I definitely am feeling the show. I'm excited to watch, or excited to finish it. And I think I like Stephen Yeun a lot. I think he is a pretty interesting actor, especially, he's really great in Nope, in Minari, if you've seen that, and then now this, and he was just cast in the MCU. Yay, Walking Dead. He is going to be in the MCU. I believe he's cast in the Thunderbolts movie, so we'll see him there soon. But this is great. I didn't realize this was an A24 produced TV show when I started it, so when I saw that logo come up at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, this is I'm A24 has become such a interesting brand within film and what it represents. And so seeing it on a TV show, you kind of know going into, oh, I'm definitely going to get some sort of elevated show here. And I think it's delivering so far. I really like Ali Wong. I like seeing her in a role like this, like in a kind of a meaty role. And yeah, I know there's been some controversy with Beef with one of the cast members and things from outside of the show. But that aside, I have been really enjoying the ride that the show takes you on just a simple, how a simple road rage incident can lead to a whole thread that unravels very quickly. So, yeah, Beef is good so far. I am 4 episodes out of 10 through it. Beef. And just saying beef.
Yeah, I'm 8 of 10. I will probably finish it, but for some reason I started to fall off at episode 7 and 8. It just was not as compelling as it had been before. But I like Beef, and I will still recommend Beef to people. I think that people should like it. And I looked up A24 after you mentioned it, because to the average listener, probably being produced by A24 doesn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything to me in any ways. It was over my head. So for layman's terms, what are a couple of hits you would give somebody for A24?
Yeah, so A24, I guess, just for it's only been around for about a decade, but it is a film, an independent film studio company that does film and television production, but notably been really big in the award space lately, and they just won Best Picture. So Everything Everywhere All at Once was an A24 film. Looking here at their highest grossing films from A24, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once, Hereditary, Lady Bird, Moonlight, The Whale, Uncut Gems, Midsommar, The Witch, Ex Machina, and Brutal.
So these are your Oscar nominees and your Oscar winners for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, so they've definitely been consistently in the race, and it very quickly in the film world, considering their some of these brands that have been around for forever, Universal and Warner Brothers, and the class MGM and the classic film studios. A24 is new, right? They've only been around for a decade, and they've already been able to establish this pretty prestige brand that there are people who will go see a movie just because it is an A24 film. So their most recent release was Beau is Afraid, which I talked about in detail on here.
You did. You said that one was nice and weird too.
It's super weird.
Well, they did the Green Knight too.
We talked about
which I was not a fan of.
They did the Green Knight, they did the Whale and Everything Everywhere All at Once. So they did dominate. I think they won like all eight of the big awards at the Oscars this year, because Best Picture, Director, all 4 acting awards, and I believe the Screenplay awards were A24 films. So they've just been all over the place. I'm looking at some other ones that have come out. After Sun is a film that I really loved. Pearl and X from Ty West, those horror movies that have been out. Bodies, 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 which I loved last year. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot. You mentioned The Green Knight, Minari. So yeah, so A24 has just been kind of killing it, and then I was looking, it looks like they have other TV shows as well, but Beef is one of the
None
big
that I've
ones.
seen. Yeah, well, they said you Hurt My Feelings, Past Lives, Talk to Me, and The Idol. Are those TV shows?
Yeah, Irma Vep, that was an HBO show. I remember that one. But yeah, I haven't seen... Oh, Euphoria is an A24 show, so that's a huge one. Huge one.
I mean, it sounds like they really just put out good stuff.
Yeah, it does.
They have a couple of things that some people might consider misses, but like even those are at least interesting. You know what I mean? They're doing stuff other studios won't, and I feel like that's going to work out for them in the end. It seems like it is working out for them very much. So
Yeah, they've been on a good run. So that's Beef.
I mean, shit, Everything Everywhere alone. You know what an accomplishment.
That's elevated them even more. So they're a mainstay in the production company realm. I also rewatched La La Land this weekend, which is a favorite of my wife and I. So that came out when I think it came out in theaters in the U.S. in December of 2016. So we were engaged and about to be married in like 5 or 6 months from then. So it was right when we were in that super lovey-dovey phase, and we saw it and we both just really, really loved it. And so it's one that she and I will revisit from time to time. And as I said, it was our anniversary, so I watched that over the weekend, and I still think it's great. And it's one of those movies that, you know, whenever a movie is dominating the Oscar race or the lead up to the Oscar race, people just get kind of tired of it. And I think that it had backlash at that time. And also La La Land was part of the very famous Oscar mix-up where it was announced as the Best Picture winner, only to a minute later realize that they had read the wrong name at the Oscars, and Moonlight had actually won Best Picture. So that's, I feel like, what people remember or associate with La La Land.
So I haven't seen La La Land because, to me, just as a guy who hasn't seen it, it looks really white. Like a lot of white people singing and dancing and just being like aggressively white. And like in Ted Lasso, whenever there's like, you know, the scenes where everybody's sitting around together singing and the camera zooms out, that shit annoys me. I'm like, that's not real life. That's like some really white people TV shit. And to me, that's what La La Land looked like. It just looked so suburban, I guess. Maybe
the caucasity of it all.
Yeah, right? I just have so little interest. I'm not interested in musicals, and a bunch of people singing and dancing just seems like a bad time.
That is pretty fair, and it is this huge love letter to Los Angeles, and so like and to, you know, Hollywood and making art and things. So I don't have a great defense of that. I don't know if there really is a defense of that. John Legend is in the movie and plays a pretty big role, but otherwise, like, I think you're pretty right in that sense, and I'm sure there are probably like thought pieces on that very topic relating to this movie.
I think it's really funny that you say it's a love letter to LA, because I would say that Training Day is a love letter to LA.
Training Day is a great movie. Yeah.
I will say this about La La Land though, the craft behind it is pretty incredible, and Damien Chazelle, the director, has made a name for himself. He did this, then went on to do First Man, which also starred Ryan Gosling. It was the Neil Armstrong kind of biopic, and then just recently made Babylon, which came out in the awards race, and it's a movie that I really liked, not as much as La La Land, and Babylon has been a little controversial for some of what it depicts, but I really liked it as well. And Damien Chazelle is just an incredible craftsman as a director. And when you watch La La Land, it's one of the things that's worth noting. Like, everything that in the film is shot on location, and even some of the scenes that you think like that surely is green screened. No, they had to film it at a specific time in the evening, and every evening until they got it right, because they literally only had a 9-minute window to have everything look perfect for how they wanted the shot to be. It's all real singing in the movie, like they're not lip syncing to a track, they're all actually singing in the scene in the moment. And so with that, their voices aren't perfect. It's not like picture perfect pitch and everything. Like it sounds very real. I mean, they are good, but I'm just saying it's not like it's overly produced music. And for me, it was hard to see other musicals, on-screen musicals, after seeing La La Land, when you hear how great it is for them to really be singing. Then when I remember not long after seeing La La Land is when The Greatest Showman came out, the Hugh Jackman, Barnum or P.T. Barnum musical. And when I watched that, and how it's just super overproduced, lip syncing to the songs, I was like, this is total garbage. Because La La Land spoiled me in that regard. So I understand. I don't have an argument for the so white part of it, but I do think that the story is really good, and just the craft behind the film is pretty incredible. So I would recommend it. I've seen it many times. So that is La La Land. The only other thing on my list that I was going to note is Succession, which I've talked about here and there. But the only reason I'm bringing this up, this was the 8th episode that just aired this past weekend. There's only 2 episodes left, not only of the season but of the series. And boy, I know I've been talking about this show for a while and how great it is. I think people should watch it. But if there's ever an episode of a show that made me go, Gary, do not watch, it was this one.
Oh no!
Because without spoiling too much on the show, they reached election day in the show. So the presidential election, and part of the industry that's being showcased in the show, is it's a big media company, and they own a big television network in the show called ATN, which is essentially like a Fox News satire, like spin on Fox News. And so the show has spent 3.5 seasons now establishing that the main 3 kids, Kendall, Roman, and Shiv, that it focuses on are total dipshits and idiots. And the show is a lot of satire and farce. But if there's anything that's a takeaway, is these 3 kids are dumb. And some of the other supporting characters as part of their family are pretty dumb. And they're all just hungry for power and, trying to do what they can do to make more money and to get more power. And to see these dumb people in this show essentially be a few of the dozen or so people behind the scenes who have a huge hand in choosing who becomes the next president of the United States, as they do in this show, is pretty terrifying. One of the scariest episodes of TV that I've seen in something that is not actually horror filmmaking. And the consensus online has been, it's one of the best episodes of the series, that everybody would never want to watch again. It's pretty crazy in that regard, and seeing just how this country works and how these huge media companies have a hand in these big political choices, and pretty sobering, I'll put it that way. So
we live in a corporate hellscape.
We do. It's
so
okay. I like it.
Crazy stuff. 2 episodes left of the series. what a ride. But yeah, that's it for me for my fresh takes. Gary, I'll throw it over to
I'm
you.
excited for Gary's takes because I want to hear more about it.
I've got a couple. First, I'll just be quick and easy. As you guys know, I have a job in the morning, so I get up and I go to a job in the morning now, and I find it peaceful and easier to watch something while I'm drinking a coffee and doing a little smoke before I go to work. And so I have settled on the Venture Brothers. It certainly isn't new by any stretch of the imagination, but short episodes, they're upbeat, they're kind of funny, they're colorful, they get you off to your day. They're not going to start you off with horrible bad news, or, they're not going to put you in a bad mood. It's the kind of thing you can safely watch and get on with your day. So if you're looking for something to watch real quick before you're headed out the door, check out Venture Brothers on HBO Max. It's a classic.
While you mentioned Venture Brothers, were either of you into the whole boy detective cartoon back in the day?
So I used to watch Johnny Quest,
Me
but
too.
not the 50s Johnny's Quest, the 90s one. They
The one
had
where
the
they went to
remake.
the virtual reality?
Yeah, it was actually pretty sick.
I watched both.
But besides
Liked it a
Johnny
lot.
Quest, what are my other boy detective options?
I mean, I guess
Scooby-Doo,
to a
guess?
point, Scooby-Doo counts. And I
I
guess
will say the original Scooby-Doo in like the 60s or 70s, whenever it was, that Scooby-Doo is better than the rest of the series. Somehow they continue to make series every couple of years. They always have.
the original
like, the
Scooby-Doo's
series-
great. Yeah.
The series from like 2012 is terrible. A pup named Scooby-Doo is not very good.
I like
The
that
original,
I like that one a lot.
They had the one with all the dancing.
The one with red herring? Yeah, I like it. It's great.
All right. So those are boy detective. So let's keep it on that. Are there other boy detectives, or is that about it?
I can't think of any, but there are for sure.
But I'm also a fan of like the old like C-Lab shows and stuff like that. And Venture Brothers gives you a lot of the taste of all those old cheesy characters. So there's something nostalgic about it while it's also new. It's raunchy and inappropriate, but it's not gross or it's intentionally funny and dumb, I think. Recommend Venture Brothers in the mornings. That's coming from me, HBO Max. Also on HBO Max, what have I stumbled upon? It is gold! I've stumbled upon hot, fresh, molten gold, certified fresh out the box. This is a cartoon show, so if you're out because it's a cartoon, then you're out. See you later. It's not anime, though. Cartoon currently running on Cartoon Network and also HBO Max because HBO is Cartoon Network right now. Unicorn Warriors Eternal. So, Unicorn Warriors Eternal just totally snuck up on me. I wanted to watch something that was fantasy or sci-fi that I hadn't seen before. And so all day I was just watching garbage shows and terrible movies that would I'd make it 20 or 30 minutes in and turn it off. But 3 episodes of Unicorn Warriors Eternal, brand new show. Made by Genndy Tartakovsky, which Jahan knew the name and I was impressed.
I did. Yeah, creator of Samurai Jack, and the reason why I know his name specifically, Tchaikovsky presents Primal, which was it doesn't have any words in it that if I remember correctly, it's like silent, but it's about a caveman fighting and killing dinosaurs. It's pretty badass and very
he
brutal.
befriends a T-Rex, and him and the T-Rex go on like a dinosaur fighting spree.
Because both
It's
of their families are brutally murdered.
So also Tarkovsky, Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, Primal, and Unicorn Warriors Eternal. Hotel Transylvania 1, 2, 3, and 4. He started writing towards the end for Hotel Transylvania also. So this is a guy, and this guy makes stuff, and the stuff that this guy makes is good. This guy makes good stuff. Unicorn Warriors Eternal. Basically, there are the souls of ancient heroes. An ancient elven warrior, an ancient, like, black magic flying priestess, and then, like, an ancient... maybe like a Buddhist soul type of thing where the guy is so meditating that he's like in the cosmos. He barely even notices where he is in the real world. So those are the souls of the heroes. And they're passed on every couple lifelines by a robot. It's this big gold robot, and he opens up from the middle like if you ripped a ball in half, and then shines a bright light, and it puts that soul into a person. So that immortal hero takes over a regular person. The action scenes are awesome, like you would expect from the guy who does Samurai Jack and Primal. Just absolutely killer action sequences. The voice acting is great. The art style is Cuphead. You guys are familiar with the Cuphead game.
Ooh.
So it's kind of Betty Boopish, kind of 50s hand-drawn cartoon. There's a ton of beautiful sound effects going on in the background because they match that same aesthetic. The show is just so exciting and colorful and action-packed. I think you could watch it with your daughter, Drew. Jahan, you're a cartoon guy. You could watch it and then sit down and watch the whole thing again back to back. It's great.
I'm probably going to watch it literally the second we end this podcast.
Unicorn Warriors Eternal on HBO Max. I cannot recommend it enough. It will probably be one of my favorite shows of this year. Definitely favorite animated shows of the year. That's it for me. That's what I've got this week. That's my last thing. I will tell you guys I'm going to watch White House Plumbers. There are 2 new episodes now. Now there are 3 episodes. So if you guys want to watch that and talk about it, that's a thing, but you don't have to.
Excellent.
That's the one I was talking about last week with Woody Harrelson, where it's sort of a dramedy about the Watergate scandals. And Woody Harrelson's playing an ex-CIA agent who's just kind of an idiot buffoon, and how those idiot buffoon guys, what they actually did. It's a true series of how stupid those agents were. So I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Another HBO Sunday night dramedy with Woody Harrelson, so you know it's going to be good.
How are both of you feeling about the upcoming Fast X that is in theaters this weekend?
I'm not feeling about it.
I haven't seen a Fast and the Furious movie since Tokyo Drift.
Seen a lot of negativity about this new one. I will probably bear it for both of you. I would not expect any full spoiler episode from us as we've done with Guardians, because I think that the appeal of the Fast franchise has been waning for a bit ever since maybe like the 7th entry. But I'll still see these movies and I will report back next week. So
I should trip you guys out and watch all 7 of the ones I haven't seen.
oh boy.
Just torture myself.
I just sat here talking about how I didn't like Breath of the Wild, and I have a lot of apprehension about going into Tears of the Kingdom, but I can honestly say, Jahan, just play more Tears of the Kingdom instead of watching all those movies.
I will.
You should just do that.
I will. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to watch Unicorn Warriors Eternal. So I have a stacked slate.
I'm going to say that Fast 5 was the last relevant Fast movie that anybody wanted to see, Drew. I'm not even going to give it to 7.
No, 7 was good. 7 was the farewell to Paul Walker. It was the last truly great entry into the franchise. Everything since then has
I'm
been...
not sure that any of them have been truly great either.
Fast 5, I legitimately would call great. It is the best one of the franchise, easily.
That's the one where they get into the chase scene and they're pulling the bank vault down the street?
It is. That is the entry
awesome.
that introduces Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs into the franchise.
Spoilers from a movie from 2011.
Oh, no, I meant on the cars. There's spoilers.
All right, guys.
And with that, yeah, we can sign off now.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Hey, you know what? I'm the cute one, so I get away with it. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching Fresh Out the Podcast 87. I am Jahanan at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG. If you like the sound of Jahan's voice and you love the sound of mine, come by every Thursday and Friday at twitch.tv/Jahananon, where me and Jahan and our friends play tabletop role-playing games. It's sort of improv comedy meets improv horror meets improv something else with gross, very sticky grossness attached.
Did you say comedy?
Yeah, comedy, horror, and then like stepping in gum at a movie theater. It's sort of the 3 of those. Yeah, that's what that's what our show is like. If you want to check out our show, that's Fresh Out the Box. We're playing games, we're making folks laugh. Other than that, just give us a like, give us a thumbs up, recommend this podcast to a friend or two, or maybe a coworker, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
And I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. Thank you for listening to Fresh Out the Podcast, the official podcast of Fresh Out the Box. We will catch you next time on episode 88.
Stay fresh.